I can remember when we were sitting in our cubicles at PacifiCorp. We had Patrick there, and I think Daniel Marvin and Steve Parker, and we were all talking about different things. And one of the topics that kept on coming back to.
I like to tell people that it's easier to make a buck than it is to make a difference, and I think I speak from experience on that matter. But I like to do hard things, and that's perhaps why I'm still here at ENERGYSEC. Now, I didn't start ENERGYSEC, but I have been entrusted with it, and I'm deeply invested in ENERGYSEC's success and in its future. But to understand where we're going, you need to understand where we've been, and I think that's a story worth telling. ENERGYSEC was formed out of the security efforts around the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics. Our founder, Patrick Miller, can shed a little more light on how that exactly happened.
Back in 2002, this is right after the September 11th terrorist attack in the U.S., myself and a handful of others, we worked at PacifiCorp, which is a really large investor-owned utility up in the Pacific Northwest. We had the footprint for pretty much the state and several states around for where the upcoming Salt Lake City Olympics were going to happen. Reached out to all the neighboring utilities because, the power system's all interconnected. So I'm trying to connect to all these other utilities that we're connected to talk to them about what's about to happen. What are we going to do if there's a problem, this kind of thing, and just start some information sharing.
In 2006, I met a man named Patrick Miller, who invited me to join ESEC Northwest. I spent a few months ignoring his phone calls, but eventually I realized he wasn't going to stop. So I called him back. We talked for over an hour, and I immediately joined ESEC Northwest.
We found that, wow, we really liked this information sharing stuff, so we just kept it up.
And then the concept of let's go have lunch with some people, let's invite them. Patrick's the one that brought that to me. We went and had a couple lunches. I think after the first lunch we might have had maybe 10 people there, but the second lunch, it got a little out of control. That become bigger than we had anticipated. So that's when we started talking about, what do we want to name this? And maybe it was at the lunch meetings, I can't recall exactly, but the name ESEC Northwest was what we were operating under. And we started bringing people in to help build this community of like-minded cybersecurity experts that were working for different utilities.
What was really good were the quarterly meetings, and each utility would kind of host the utilities at their place, big conference room, and pretty much everybody would just kind of buy their own lunch, that kind of thing. But we had a reason to get together and share information.
Patrick, thank you. You were so instrumental in building this out at the beginning and onward that we started getting vendors interested. We solicited this into an actual kind of summit, and we started having summits. And that was 20 years ago, believe it or not. I didn't have so much gray.
We built up so much gravity that there was really an interest in what we were doing.
The 2005 to 2008 timeframe, ENERGYSEC really experienced growth. We received a leadership award from the SANS Institute, recognizing our accomplishments in the Western U.S. And then in 2008, we incorporated, forming a real nonprofit, changed our name from Energy Security Northwest to the Energy Sector Security Consortium, reflecting our national scope, and began to really move forward from there.
The first time we created kind of a non-utility only group was we wanted to invite, maybe some regulators or maybe even some vendors into the mix, because they have a direct bearing on your life as a utility in a lot of real ways. So they were asking to participate in our closed meetings that we had. So we decided to have kind of an open meeting where we would allow everybody in, and it was once a year versus the quarterlies. So we'd pick one of the quarterlies and then pretty much allow anybody else in that had an interest in what we were doing. And that was one of the first, but then ESEC Northwest Summit was formed.
Compliance started becoming important. So these conferences started becoming really important. And I think it was our very first ESEC Northwest Summit where we had NERC, we had FERC, we had utilities sitting on panels. They were moderated. We were asking the tough questions. What's going on? What's coming? And how are we going to do this? It was big. We had tons of people, and thanks to Cisco for the first 2 summits. They sponsored that by themselves and provided us a space to have a certain number of people. I think we were limited to only 100, and I think we had standing room only at the beginning of that third summit, which we actually had a hotel, and we had a real bill in front of us where it was going to cost us money, and we weren't incorporated, nothing. We were just a community with a name of ESEC Northwest, and really wanted to figure out what we were going to do next.
So after ENERGYSEC had been around a while, it had grown. We'd gone, basically international. We had U.S. and Canadian utilities. We were, doing information sharing in a way that I don't think anybody else was. And we had, a really phenomenal information sharing network and a lot of really deep involvement. We got a leadership award from SANS as well, which was, really an awesome recognition, not just for us as, ENERGYSEC and those that were leading it, but really for the entire organization and the fact that they created such an interesting kind of motivation that it was worth recognizing from one of the most prestigious institutes around. One of the first things we did was to apply for the National Electric Sector Cybersecurity Organization, or NESCO, opportunity with the Department of Energy. And it became kind of a subset or a piece of ENERGYSEC that was funded by the Department of Energy. And it was really aligned with the same missions: information sharing, training, workforce development, these kinds of things.
The idea of going after this proposal that the Department of Energy submitted or had out there for the National Electric Cybersecurity Organization. Actually, I think it was called the National Energy Cybersecurity Organization at the time, and we put in a bid for it.
I remember writing the grant application. I was actually working at WEC at the time as a NERC auditor, and spent some very late nights in Las Vegas, of all places, as we were conducting an audit, and then by day, and then at night we were eating and playing and working on the grant application, which we eventually won. And
Patrick had moved on to leave WEC to go work for ICF Consulting, and of course we wanted to bring him back into the fold as the the CEO of this new venture with DOE if they picked us up. And we were up till I think 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when we had to go audit. Sorry, NV Energy. I think it was NV Energy or one of those that we were auditing. We might have been a little tired the next day, but somehow we ended up winning that.
When we were awarded the DOE grant in 2010, I made the scary decision to leave my very safe utility job to join the senior leadership team at ENERGYSEC as we built the National Electric Sector Cybersecurity Organization. The years that followed were a wild roller coaster of high highs and sometimes some low lows, but I would not trade that time for anything. We were laying the foundation of meaningful security information sharing in this industry.
We ran into some significant challenges with DOE. I think there were a lot of other competing interests at the time. There were some significant challenges within DOE itself in terms of things like infighting.
We made our best attempt at this DOE. What we thought was a grant didn't turn out to be a grant. It was something else that was a little bit more difficult to manage, but that's besides things. So we made a good, legitimate attempt to do the right thing there, and kept on growing. And Patrick came back in. We brought in Lisa Carrington, brought in a bunch of other wonderful people. Chris Jager was on staff. Now we actually had employees and payroll, and we had money coming in, and we were having to pay it out, and all the stress that comes with a startup organization, even though it was a nonprofit, existed, and we were smiling about it. We were having a good time. I remember one of my favorite times is when we first got our office. We got the keys. Patrick and my wife Kristen, who's still part of ENERGYSEC, they went out looking for a place, and when they found it, it was great. When we got the keys, and when we first all showed up there and looked at the place, and it was like hey, we're doing good stuff here. We struggled, of course. Any organization that's trying to do a lot so fast is going to struggle, and a lot of lessons learned. But we always had the summits. We keep on coming back to these summits. These summits are real. They're fun. We may not be the biggest summit out there, the conference that talks about cybersecurity, but we were one of the first. We're one of the first, and we're still here, and we're still making a difference. We're still helping people.
What really happened at the end of all of this is we had a lot of really good kind of growth that launched the organization into a new space that we hadn't really had the kind of financial potential to do. So we can certainly thank DOE for helping the organization get that far.
I remember the phrase very clearly: no cost extension. That's what we received from the Department of Energy when at the end of 2012, and it effectively meant no more money. And that really led us into a transition period where we were weaning ourselves off of federal funding and looking at other ways to generate revenue to sustain the organization and really refocus what we wanted to do as an organization. And so we refocused on training and education and workforce development, and that proved to be a winning strategy for us. We had identified really 5 core focus areas that we wanted to focus the organization on. Number 1 being community, number 2 being professional education, 3 being workforce development, 4 being information sharing, and 5 being services. We had a handful of very good years, 2016 through 2019. The training program was taking off, generating revenue. We had started an internship program that led to hiring of staff that some of whom eventually became full-time staff members. We had launched newsletters, a variety of education efforts, workforce development. We did security education weeks. We moved our summits to Disneyland, which was another in 2016, and another great move, which is proven to be very exciting for the organization. Being involved in EnergySec now for 15 plus years, almost the full 2 decades, we've seen good times and we've seen bad times. And it seems like every time we get rolling and think we're really about to break through and make it as an organization, something happens. And that was true in 2020. We were gaining significant momentum. The training programs were booming. We had staff and analysts that were doing work, and we really made broad connections within the industry. We had a full slate of events planned for 2020. And as we all are aware, World Events had another idea. And so COVID hit, of course, in March of 2020. And as an organization that relied very heavily on in-person events for most of our revenue generating activities, that was almost a fatal experience for us to have to shut down most of that for the better part of a year. It made us stronger as an organization. The move to online training really supplemented what we do on the in-person side. So that was a great addition that we had thought about and talked about, but never really had a reason to do. And COVID kind of pushed us down that road. So the last few years coming out of COVID have been another rebuilding era for us. And been very excited about some of the things we've been able to pull off. One is we got a return to federal money. So while federal money is a small part of our overall revenue, we were able to participate in a Department of Labor grant as a subrecipient working on cybersecurity apprenticeship programs. We also are currently a primary recipient on a grant from NIST under the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. Our training has expanded. We've launched a learning management system. We've launched credential programs and certification programs, and we're working on a services approach to really help the small and mid-sized utilities strengthen their security programs.
We'll see where the next 20 years go. We're going to change the world. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations on 20 incredible years, EnergySec. Thank you for letting me be part of it, and I look forward to the next 20.